at least two bills in the state legislature this session which would extend state tuition to so-called Dreamers. These undocumented students have temporary permission to stay in the United States and attend school, but under current law, they pay out-of-state tuition. 11 Alive's Doug Richards has been looking into proposals that would change all of that.
Georgia residents who have legal issues with their immigration status rarely get a lot of kind treatment among the powers that be here at the Capitol. But Dreamers attending college may be emerging as a somewhat protected constituency. Dreamers are typically young people born elsewhere who immigrated undocumented with their parents. When they go to college, Georgia law requires them to pay out-of-state tuition. Republican David Clark says that should change.
This is a bill that goes in the right direction and helps these kids that are in no man's land and did not come here illegally on their own choice. They were young. A lot of them were babies, and it's just giving them a chance to get in-state tuition to pay their way and get their education.
And the difference between in-state and out-of-state tuition is substantial. We'll take a look at the numbers tonight at 6.